For weeks the palace said very little. Brief appearances, careful smiles, no direct answers. Then Prince William stepped forward and said just enough, not a headline-grabbing speech, not a dramatic statement, but a few measured words that landed harder than people expected. And that's where this gets interesting. To understand why Prince William's recent comments matter, we have to rewind slightly. Over the past several months, royal watchers have been paying close attention to how the Prince of Wales has been moving inside the institution. His public schedule has shifted. His focus areas have narrowed. And behind the scenes, reports from established British outlets have described subtle but significant changes in how the palace operates. This isn't about scandal, it's about structure, tone, and priorities. According to royal correspondence, there has been an ongoing effort to modernise how the monarchy works. Fewer voices, clearer messaging, and more emphasis on long-term causes rather than daily headlines. At the same time, the royal family has been navigating a period of visible transition, with senior members adjusting roles and responsibilities. All of that creates a vacuum. And when there's a vacuum in royal life, silence becomes the story. Prince William, in particular, has been noticeably careful. No off-the-cuff interviews, no personal commentary, just appearances tied closely to his work. Homelessness through Homewards, environmental leadership via Earthshot, and early childhood development. So when new details began circulating about internal palace operations, staffing changes, evolving decision-making structures, and a tighter inner circle, attention quickly turned to one question. Would William address it? Not directly, but he didn't stay silent either. The moment came during a public engagement tied to one of William's long-standing initiatives. On the surface, it looked routine. A scheduled appearance, prepared remarks, calm delivery. But royal observers noticed something different. When asked about leadership responsibility and the future of his work, Prince William paused, and then spoke in a way that felt more personal than usual. He talked about long-term thinking, about building systems that last, and about the importance of quiet progress over noise. Now, none of that explicitly referenced palace reports. There was no mention of internal changes, no direct acknowledgement of behind-the-scenes developments. But according to several royal commentators, the timing mattered. This was the first time since those reports gained traction that William addressed themes of structure and sustainability in such a pointed way. And while his words were carefully framed around charity work and public service, many saw them as a subtle response to the wider conversation happening around him. Here's the thing. Prince William doesn't speak casually in public. Every sentence is weighed. Every phrase is deliberate. So when he emphasizes stability, focus and clarity, royal watchers listen. Media coverage reflected that. British outlets highlighted the remarks as measured but revealing. Others noted that William appeared comfortable with restraint, suggesting a leadership style that favours control over reaction. And online reaction followed quickly. Viewers and commentators weren't debating what he said. They were debating what he didn't. Because sometimes in royal life, what's left unsaid carries more weight than a full statement. This is where it gets interesting. William didn't deny anything. He didn't confirm anything, but he acknowledged indirectly that something is changing, and that acknowledgement alone was enough to fuel discussion. If you enjoy this kind of calm royal breakdown, the kind that looks past headlines and focuses on meaning, you might want to subscribe. These moments make a lot more sense when you track them over time. Let's pause on what William didn't address. There was no mention of internal restructuring, no clarification about staffing reports, no reference to family dynamics or institutional pressure. And that absence is meaningful. According to royal observers, silence from senior royals is rarely accidental, particularly when media coverage has been persistent but measured, as it has been in this case. The palace could have issued a brief clarification. It didn't. William could have shut down speculation. He chose not to. Instead, he stayed within his lane. Mission-driven language, forward-looking priorities, and an emphasis on outcomes rather than process. That approach aligns with what commentators have described as William's evolving leadership style. Less reaction, more direction. Some experts have noted that this mirrors how other future monarchs have positioned themselves historically, focusing on continuity rather than commentary, especially during periods of adjustment. And it raises a question: is the silence meant to lower the temperature, or is it meant to signal confidence? There's no official confirmation either way. But public reaction online has focused on the idea that William appears increasingly comfortable letting speculation exist without feeding it. That's a shift. In previous generations, royal messaging often aimed to close down discussion. Now, the strategy appears to be patience, allowing interest to peak and then fade without intervention. Not everyone agrees with that approach. Some commentators argue that silence creates uncertainty. Others believe it reinforces authority. What's clear is that William is choosing his moments carefully. And this wasn't one of loud explanation. A lot of you watching right now aren't subscribed yet. And if you're enjoying this style of analysis, it genuinely helps support the channel. The British media response has been notably restrained. Tabloids covered the remarks, but without dramatic framing. Broadsheets focused more on tone than content. Royal correspondence highlighted consistency rather than surprise. That alone tells us something. When the press senses instability, coverage sharpens. When they sense control, it softens. Several long-standing royal analysts pointed out that William's language closely mirrors phrases he has used privately, according to previous profiles. Words like impact, systems, and legacy. Those aren't emotional terms, they're managerial ones. Historically, this places William closer to a modern executive model of leadership, rather than the ceremonial style of the past. Comparisons have also been made, cautiously, to how King Charles spoke about reform when he was Prince of Wales. But commentators are quick to note the differences. Where Charles often articulated ideas openly, William appears more reserved, preferring demonstration over explanation. That distinction matters. Experts suggest it reflects both personality and generational change. Today's audiences are skeptical of grand statements. They respond more to visible results, and William seems acutely aware of that. International media picked up on the moment as well, particularly outlets that track monarchy as an evolving institution rather than a cultural relic. Their framing focused on continuity, not conflict. Again, no one is calling this a turning point, but many are calling it a signal. So what does this actually mean? According to royal commentators, Prince William appears to be settling into a role that prioritizes long-term credibility over short-term reassurance. That could mean fewer statements, more focused appearances, and tighter alignment between message and mission. It could also suggest that internal palace changes, whatever their exact nature, are being handled quietly by design. There's no indication of crisis, no evidence of upheaval, just transition. And transitions, especially in royal institutions, are rarely announced outright. They're felt gradually. Some observers believe this approach will continue as William takes on greater responsibility, maintaining stability by avoiding unnecessary commentary. Others think the silence may eventually break more clearly once adjustments are complete. Both interpretations remain possible. What's important is not to rush to conclusions. Royal history shows that moments like this often look more significant in hindsight than in real time. What feels subtle now may later be understood as intentional groundwork. This channel is about understanding those moments, not rushing to conclusions, not inflating rumours, but reading between the lines with context. And Prince William's recent remarks, restrained as they were, give us just enough to consider without jumping ahead. So here's the question that lingers. Do you think Prince William's measured response reflects quiet confidence? Or does the continued silence leave too much open to interpretation? And when you heard his words, did they feel like routine messaging? Or something more deliberate? I'm curious how you interpreted this moment.